Hi, everybody. As always, I try to anchor us into why this is important, at least from my perspective. So Vandana Shiva, who is a very well-known ecofeminist, says water, food, land, soil, forest, human, each element interact with the others. And I think for me, that particular quote encapsulates exactly why environmental sustainability is an issue we should all be concerned about. We shouldn't be, I think a lot of us think that we should be concerned about it for our sustainability. But from what I understand and how I see it, we should be concerned about it for every single species sustainability. As humans, I think very often we fall into the trap, into thinking that only our survival is important. And so I think we should all just kind of allow ourselves that time to think about what that means for each of us. And so why is it important for me as an activist, as a feminist, is because there's when we look at oppression of people, and we look at the degradation of the environment, we see that they are all interconnected. And so we see in our current reality, we see examples of extractivism where, you have mining companies that are extracting for profit and not necessarily always thinking about what is the impact on the particular communities that are living in that particular area. And so that's one example. When we think about water, in recent years, I think, the reality of water and a potential water crisis, we all run into that every single year. There's a little bit of, we kind of get a flag to say, hey, there may not be enough water. And I think particularly within the global majority world, that is a reality we are living with, right? And so you also see how capitalism works, where you see bottled water and the impact of the packaging of bottled water, and that becoming something. If you go to certain countries, people are offering you only bottled water. And it's not that we don't want clean water, we don't want good water, but we also need to think about what is the impact on the environment and what are other options for accessing the kind of water that we need. And so then the last thing, I think, in South Africa in particular, we've seen the energy crisis. I think, every South African will tell you load shedding is part of our daily vocabulary, where we check when it will be load shedding, how it is that we can get the energy we need to do the things that we need to. Because as you know, in the kind of life we live today, we cannot exist without electricity most of the time because of our devices, the work we do, we need access to internet, all of those things just to kind of be part of the global world. And so we need to think about what does that mean then for the environment, like the choices we make, what does that mean? And I think more and more of us are aware of AI, artificial intelligence, and I think we all know that AI offers us quick fix solutions, but we also know that it has a really serious impact on our environment. So we need to make informed choices. So for me, how do I approach it? I think the first way that I approach it, I think the most obvious and the easiest way we can do it is by the ways we make choices as consumers, right? So you can choose products, I think, that are more environmentally friendly. You can choose products that also use packaging that is environmentally friendly. And then I think the third piece, you can also buy products from companies that have ethical environmental practices. So I think that's a simple thing that all of us can do. It doesn't take a lot to do a little bit of research. I think nowadays many companies actually give you that information, particularly companies that have ethical practices. And I think with Google and the internet and social media, we also hear a lot about companies that do not have those practices. And I think we can use our consumer power not to buy from them. The second way that we can also, contribute to sustainability of our environment is to reduce our environmental footprint. And again, it's, in Cape Town a few years ago, we had a water crisis. And I think for the first time, people started using less water, because I remember even the children at school would come home and say, "Why are you taking such a long shower?" They told us at school we only meant to take a 90-minute shower. So I think we can think about how to, also capture some of the water and use it for our plants, etc. So we can do some things differently, where we reduce our environmental footprint. And then I think even transport, when you can use public transport, or even walk. I mean, I often laugh sometimes at my niece and nephews, and I'll say, they'll be like, "Oh, we need to go to the shop," and I'll say, "Oh, let's walk then." They're like, "No, it's too far," and it's only a 15-minute walk. And so it's really just kind of becoming more willing to do things that make us a little uncomfortable, that can contribute to the environment, but also, to future generations, but also to the current generation. And then I think the last thing, for me, in terms of environmental sustainability, is to also think about what are the things that you can join, that can get you involved, in efforts around advocacy, whether it is, I think in certain communities they have cleanup activities, or they are projects or initiatives that's happening based on, particular companies and what they're doing in a community. And so join those as well. I mean, I think what the core message with this is, I think, become aware, change what you can in your own individual behavior. And the third thing, do what you can so that you don't only focus on yourself, you focus on your community and on other communities, because I think, we need all of us to participate in creating the kind of environment we want. I want to end off with a quote by Wangari Maathai, who is another ecofeminist, who has long passed on, but from Kenya. So I always like to add our African feminists there. And what Gary says, I think, is a message to all of us. She says, "We cannot tire or give up. We owe it to the present and future generations of all species to rise up and walk forward." And so I think that's the message for all of us. We cannot tire. We cannot just do what we need to deal with the problem right now. We need to continuously do this, because I think the damage that we have done already is already showing us what we have done, and we need to keep moving forward. So thank you.